What up?
This is The Other 51. I'm Brian, and this week I'm joined by Shea Serrano from The Ringer. My guest this week is one of my favorite writers on sports, on movies, on basically anything. He was a guest a couple of years ago, and I'm happy to have him back. Shea Serrano, welcome back to The Other 51.
What up, boy?
Just living my best quarantine life up here in New York. How you guys doing down in Texas?
It's falling apart down here. It's awful.
It's not good. It's not good. But basketball's back today as we record this, so that's something, right?
Yeah, we have that at least.
So are you? So I know you're following the WNBA today, and the NBA is coming back in a few days, weeks as it comes back. How are you dealing with that? Just out of curiosity, I mean, are you excited to see basketball? Is it a little tempered because of everything going on in the world?
Yeah, I'm excited that it's here. I'm also a little nervous that stuff might start to go wrong.
Right.
None of the games are like worth anybody getting sick or anything like that. So you just feel weird about it while it's happening, and you just sort of cross your fingers and hope it works out for everybody.
So before we get to writing, and we got a lot I want to talk to you about, especially your new short story. But I need to thank you because of your book, Movies and Other Things, which came out, I want to say about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago now. Got me to rewatch Booksmart and realize just how brilliant a movie that was. So I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, Booksmart's fantastic. Really, really smart movie.
It is. So it was funny because I watched it with my wife one time. It was a movie we had on in the background, and we liked it, but weren't drawn into it. And I saw you talking about it a lot, and I was like, okay, Shea likes this. I got to give it another go. And I sat down and watched it one night after reading the chapter on the book. And that's such a smart movie, such a confident movie. What is it about that movie for you that really stuck out and made it so good?
I like when a movie announces itself with some real intention. And in the case of Booksmart, we had for many years seen like a very firm template for what a high school movie was supposed to be. These are the characters who are supposed to be in there. Like the Breakfast Club is like the easiest example to point to. It's like, oh, there's the jock, and there's the popular girl, and there's the nerdy kid, and then there's the emo kid, and then there's the wild one who doesn't follow or whatever. And movies for a lot of years stuck to that template. And then I think it was when Election showed up and we had the Tracy character.
Right.
We saw like this new version of a thing where it was like she was kind of nerdy but very competent and confident and capable. And it was like this new creation that we had not really seen before. And then Booksmart showed up, and it just sort of cemented that character into the world. So I think from here going forward, any high school movie that you see, any high school TV show that you see will have a version of the two characters that we saw in Booksmart. And when a movie can do that, that's when it sticks around for a long time.
Yeah. So one main thing I want to talk to you about today is the short story that you wrote that came out just about a week ago as we're recording this or so. Post. And no spoilers. I'm going to make sure I don't spoil it or do the best I can to not spoil it. If you haven't bought it, shame on you. Go buy it, then come back here and listen to this so you don't have to worry about it. So what's the reaction been like to it for you? Have you been kind of surprised by the reception it's gotten?
I was very surprised. People were saying a lot of nice things about it. This was the first like real fiction thing that I've written. So this is not a world I'm used to. This is not a type of writing that I'm used to. So I was a little bit scared about it. And then it came out and people said nice things, and now I feel less scared.
So kind of walking back on that, like you said, this is a different type of writing than you've done, obviously. So what's the difference between writing fiction for you and writing the nonfiction that you're used to?
The main difference is if you're writing nonfiction stuff, all of the legwork, the background work on the characters has been done for you already. There's a history in place. There's a reason that somebody who did a thing did the thing the way that they did it when you're writing nonfiction stuff. Like, for example, if I'm writing about LeBron James in any given basketball moment, and he does like a thing and has a reaction. Let's say when they won the title in 2016, and as soon as he realized that he had won it, he fell to the ground in tears. There's like a reason he reacted that way, and we all knew the reason he reacted that way because we have been following LeBron's career for whatever it was at the time, 15 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was that long, whatever, 12 years. I don't know. It's fine. But the point I'm trying to make is there's a reason he reacted the way that he did, and we knew it, and it was like very easy to go like, oh, he reacted like this because of the stuff that has happened in his career so far and his connection to Cleveland. And there you go. So all of the like things he's doing makes sense. When you're writing fiction and you are creating these characters out of nothing, you have to make sure to like shore up that part of it before you start writing the thing. That was a problem I kept running into.
Okay.
I would be writing, and I would have like a character react a certain way, and then I would realize it didn't make sense with like the other stuff that I'd written about the character. I was just putting a thing in there to put a thing in there, and I'm like, I didn't have the history in place for a character to respond to a thing the way that they needed to respond. It felt like I was just making shit up. So that's the main difference. That was the main trouble I had when I was working on it, because a short story is only about 4,000 words. If I'm writing a 4,000 word nonfiction thing, I can do that pretty quick. I could do that in a day, no question about it. But with this fiction thing, I had to like do all of the background work before. It took several weeks before I felt like comfortable with the story coming out, because I had to do all of that other stuff first.
So I going back, like, where did the idea for this story come from? Like, do you remember kind of like the moment or where you kind of the story came to you, or you decided to write it? Like, when did this start for you?
If the story came out July 15, I probably started working on it in March or April or something like that.
Okay.
Just putting the pieces in place and thinking about things and trying to figure out like a clever, cool way to do what I wanted to do. So that it's a couple months process for me to write something like that. I'm real slow with that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So did you sit down to like, hey, I'm going to write a piece of fiction and I'm going to write a short story about kids in San Antonio, or like where did like you started working on it March and April, like where did the idea come from? Was it kind of intentional? Did it just kind of happen?
No, it was intentional.
Okay.
There's like a main point of the story that I wanted to write. This is like the same way that I write in a book chapter or an article or an essay or whatever. It always starts with like a main idea. So for the short story, I have a main idea. Like this is the theme. This is the like point I want to get across with this short story. And then I just have to figure out, how do I write my way toward that? Who are the characters I need so that I can say the things I want to say? So it's sort of like reverse engineering it.
Okay. So you mentioned too the whole world building and the characters reacting the way they do and kind of working on that. I'm really curious, because I've never written fiction. I think I tweeted at you like a paragraph of fiction that I had started writing that I actually dusted off after reading Post, and it's awful. And it's not a world. It's a first draft, so of course it's awful, but it's not a world that I'm totally into. So when you're world building, and this is obviously just how you do it, like did you like start like with an outline? Did you start like with the cast of characters and kind of figure it out? You said you had the end in place, so did you kind of have the theme, I should say, and then kind of work that? Like in terms of building the world, did you build the world and then write, or did you kind of write and build the world along with it?
I probably built the world first and then started writing.
Okay.
It's like if you and I were working on a thing, and we're like, okay, me and Brian, we're writing a scary movie about whatever, and like, okay, cool. Like the best scary movies are the ones that have a point or a purpose. So with The Exorcist, for example, like the whole point of The Exorcist is we're questioning, does God exist, and if he does, like in what capacity, and blah, 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 whatever. So they start there, or that's how I would do it anyway. I would start there and I'd be like, okay, this is the thing this is the question I want to ask, this is the thing I want to say, Brian. So we're going to do our scary story, and what I want to say here is like, I'm just going to make up a bad version of this, but what I want to say in our scary movie is like, you can't balance between two different identities. You have to like pick a version of the self you want to be and go there. And if you don't do that, then you're going to get lost along the way. So that's like the thing I want to say with this movie. And then you're like, okay, what's a story that I can tell to help me say that without me having to say that thing? I think that's usually like for me when things work the best is when a thing is over and you realize what the writer or director or whoever wanted you to realize, but they never came out and like said it explicitly.
Right.
Like with American Psycho, I rewatched this movie recently, and like American Psycho is not about serial killers. It's not about. It's like it's supposed to be like this sort of investigation or inspection of the like consumerism of the 80s, the like megalomania of the 80s. Like that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And they never come out and say that though. They just put all these pieces in place and show you this world, and then by the end of it, you're supposed to hopefully arrive at that conclusion. So it's like the same thing that I'm doing here that you and I would do if we were working on a thing. We would identify the thing first, and then like, okay, who are the characters that will help us prove this point? And we're talking about the megalomania of the 80s. All right, cool. We're probably gonna like let's start with some finance guys because this is a world they're in, and then you just start doing it. Okay, that sort of way.
Okay, and so that's what, and that is that how kind of Post came together that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, okay, this is a thing that here's the main idea or the theme I want to have. Okay, who are the characters I need that will help me do it? Get this idea across in a clever way. Like hopefully you read it once and you're like, oh, it's a story about a group of friends just doing like a thing. And then if you like 2 days later you go like, oh, it was not about that at all. It was like about a different thing.
Right. That's
hopefully.
Yeah. No. Well, for me anyway, it absolutely stuck with that. So as you're writing this, I'm wondering what was your both self-editing process, and you worked with an editor on this, right? Or you had an editor kind of help you out with this?
Yeah, that's correct. I hired, again, because I had not written fiction stuff before, I wanted to work with somebody who lives in that world. So I hired this woman named Angeline Rodriguez, who works at one of the big publishing houses editing fiction stuff. So then I can like write what I think is good, and then I can send it to her with like my questions or notes. And I get, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then she gives me some insight back, and then I can shape it as needed.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I saw this on Twitter, but you tweeted out that the ending, how you ended the story, was one of the ways that she really helped you out with this.
Yeah, that's correct.
So what can you? I don't want to. We're not spoiling the book promises because people should buy it. But what was that process like? What were you struggling with ending it, and kind of what was in general like? What's kind of the guidance that you got that maybe is going to help you the next time you do something like this?
Well, it's very easy when you're writing a thing or you've written a thing to read it and go like, something is missing here.
Right.
You can always. This is no different than like playing basketball. And sometimes when you shoot a shot, it like feels good leaving your hand, and you're like, all right, cool. Other times you shoot it and you're like, nope, that's not it. And you already know. That's how it felt when I finished this story. I read it and I said, no, that's not it. This is not a strong enough ending the way that I had it originally. I'm missing some pieces here, but I don't know what those pieces are missing. So like when I sent it to Angeline, I said that specifically. I said, hey, you do what you do on the whole story, but like the ending is missing something. You'll see when you get there. And then she read it, and she goes like to her credit, she goes like, oh, okay, the story, you're saying the story's about this, but if I'm understanding it correctly, it's actually about this other thing. And then I said, yes, that's exactly correct. And she goes, okay, cool. Well, then probably what you need are these other pieces here. Okay. And she was, exactly correct. And I go, oh yeah, that is way better. And then I like wrote in what she was pointing me, and then I reread it, and I go, oh, okay, that feels good leaving the hand now.
Right. I've talked about this with a couple other writers recently. Like, working with a great editor is just the best, isn't it? When you get somebody who gets your voice or kind of can bring that to you, to whatever you've written, fiction, nonfiction, journalism, whatever. I mean, that's just the best, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. I have an editor at the Ringer, this guy named Andrew Gradadaro, and he's the same way. We've been working together for a while now, so he sort of understands where it is. I'm always trying to land with all of this stuff, so I can do the same thing with him. I can just send it to him and be like, I need some help with this part. It's missing something, and he always has some ideas of how to fix it.
So, aside from maybe the working with your editor, when you kind of have that feeling of something ain't right with this piece, like it doesn't feel good leaving the hand, like I can just tell. What are some of the other things that you do to kind of work around that? It can be fiction, it can be your essays, it can be nonfiction, kind of just in general. What are some of the ways, if you know a piece isn't working, what do you do to kind of get it to a point where it feels better?
I just keep at it. This is no different than like if you're sculpting something. I'm sculpting a famous person, a bust, and I can look at it and go like, well, this isn't right yet. Like, I gotta just keep trying. And it's like a very sucky process, but you just keep on at it until it like gets closer and closer and closer until eventually you get there. If I'm like just totally lost on a thing, that either means this idea wasn't good at all, actually, and just throw it away, or I will like reach out to somebody whose taste I respect and ask them questions about it, or tell them about what I'm doing. And usually just talking with somebody else will sort of shake something loose, and you go, oh, I know what to do,
right.
What to do now.
Right. Do you throw away ideas often? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
So, how long do you? I mean, when do you know? Like, bad question here, struggling with it. But when do you know to throw away an idea?
You know when to throw away an idea, probably when you're like halfway into working on it.
Okay.
For me anyway, it's like a lot of wasted time. But I'm working on a thing, I can't quite get it to where I want it to go, and that's usually like a good hint that maybe this isn't working out great. And then I just spend a little more time with it, and I start to realize, oh, this was like, a lot of times what happens is like, oh, this would have been a good tweet. This is not a good 2,000 word thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Or you realize it should be, part of something else, or it's just that there really is no other process to it. It's just kind of iterative. You kind of work through it and write through it. And, I mean, it sucks when you have the idea and it goes and you realize it's not going anywhere. But I don't know. I've often found too that like it's never really totally wasted time, because it can get you thinking on another idea, or 3 months later I come back to a sentence I wrote in something, and then that leads me down a path. So I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not cool, but it's never. I don't know if I ever view it as the total waste.
Yeah, that does happen a bunch. A lot of the stuff that even some of like the stuff that I pitch, if it doesn't get picked up, I save it for like a different thing and come back to it later on. But every once in a while, I just have to completely abandon a thing.
Right. So if any character in Post would have a sequel, their own sequel, where they're the focus, who would it be?
Crystal.
That's what I thought. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. She's such a cool character. Like, she's just begging for her own spinoff series.
Yeah. She was the one that. So when I'm working on a thing, something like this especially, it's like I enjoy doing this stuff. It's fun to put it out there, but on a certain level, if it doesn't get the response that I'm hoping for, then I'm just never going to revisit it again. But if it does get a good response, then I want to be able to come back to it. So while I was working on this thing, her story was the one that to me had the most legs after this. And so like within the thing that I was writing, I'm like, let me put some little pieces in here that just in case I want to do another thing after this and she's going to be the main part, then I can go back and do that. The same thing happened with the basketball book and with the movie book. In the basketball book, there's like this very dumb section where just in the middle of nowhere, there's like a fake, the like whole chapter just turns out to be like a script for a fake action movie.
Right.
And it's like a really dumb, I just put it in there and I didn't explain anything. but it got a good response, and then that's what ended up leading to the movie book later on. I was like, when I put it in there, I said, okay, if this works, if people grab this, then I will have the chance to do a bigger thing later on. And then, luckily it did, so I got to do that.
So you sold this book on your own, on your own with your own website, selling it as a PDF on your own. I know you've done this with the Scrubs essays and the Office essays too. It's out of curiosity why you decided, especially with this, as a standalone story, to publish it and sell it on your own rather than maybe try to sell it to a magazine or some other publishing situation.
These are all like practical answers I'm going to give here, because there are a couple of them, but I couldn't sell it to another magazine or another publication because I work at the Ringer, the website The Ringer, and I have like a no-compete clause in there, so I can't write for other places. But this is not something that they would ever run, so it couldn't go there. But it's a thing that I wanted to do, so those options are out. I couldn't pitch it as a whole book because this was, a fiction book is 80,000 words or something. This is 4,000. I just wanted to get in and out. So that was part of the reason. Also, I just wanted to try a thing, and I really like doing the self-publishing stuff because I get to be the final voice in like every decision. I don't have to answer to one single other person. There's no even Angeline, if she's like, hey, change this, I could be like, no, I don't want to change that, and she just goes, all right, cool, because this is just like a side project for her anyway. Right. So I'm not going to butt heads with somebody who's doing this full time. So I really like that part of it, and then also like there's like a financial aspect of it that always comes into play, where whenever I do one of the self-published things, like let's say with this one in particular, you could get the short story and an audio book of this short story that I read and recorded and like turned it into like this, what I think is a very cool thing. But you can get those two things together for $20, and if you pay the $20, you get it, and then of that $20, I get 19 of the dollars. $1 goes to the website, okay, because they have to, they have like they charge their fees, but I get 19 of the dollars. And when you publish something with a proper publisher, you get an advance, some like early money. When you self-publish, you don't get an advance, but you get more on the back end. Okay. So like the ratio is like, it's not exact, but it's close enough that we can like use it as an example here. If I sell a book for $20 through a publisher, I usually will probably get like $1.50 or $2 or something like that out of there, depending on where it's purchased from. So like if I sell 5,000 of those books, I get like $5,000 in royalties if I've earned back my advance already. With the other one, I don't have to sell 5,000 copies to get $5,000. I've got to sell, 300 copies or something like that. And because I'm getting $19 for each one, I can make the money that maybe a publisher would have made me. So that's also like a little part of it. But again, this is like, that's just sort of in the background, because fortunately with these sort of projects, I don't have to worry too much about making money off of them, because I've got proper book stuff going on and a proper job. So I'm just doing these little ones just to do them.
Right. And I love the idea of trying something new. I know it's one thing that I've often taken from reading your work and reading you on Twitter is just kind of, we can do stuff now thanks to the internet, thanks to everything, and you can just try stuff. And if people like it, cool. And if not, there's another one coming. Like I do like that attitude that you kind of have of, hey, let's give this a go and see if it works, right? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to ask permission anymore. Every single thing you need to like do the thing you want to do is out there, and you can go try it. I had never done an audio book, like a fiction audio book before with like sound effects and stuff like that, but I wanted to try it. So I just like hired a producer and recorded some stuff into a proper setup, and we made the thing. Same with this short story. I hired the people to make it, and then we put it out there and see what happens. There's a ton of like cool stuff you can try to do. So you want to try it, just fucking go try it.
What was recording the audiobook process like? Was that fun?
It was weird at first, and then after like 30 minutes you get used to it.
Okay.
It wasn't like so different. I just had to get in my head that it was like I'm just doing a podcast. Basically, I'm just telling a story on a podcast. Because what I think what happens naturally is once you put that mic in front of you, something in your brain is like, oh, make it sound like a thing you've heard before. Make this sound like NPR is what my brain did. And so I was doing that in the beginning, and then I listened back to it, and I was like, this doesn't work for me. This is the opposite of like normally how I do things. So then I had to go back and like, okay, let me just try it again. Let me just pretend like I'm telling this story to somebody that I know, and then I recorded it that way, and then it sounds much different. It sounds like right now while you and I are talking, there's like long breaks in there, like there was just right there, and then a whole bunch of words will come all out at once real fast. Like it sounds cool, I think, to make it sound like that.
Sounds a little more natural than kind of like that canned audio, that canned kind of cadence you're used to on it. Yeah. So yeah. I ask everyone I have on the podcast this, what's the best thing you've read lately?
The best thing that I've read lately? I'm in the middle of reading this book called I Got a Monster by Brandon Soderbergh and Baynard Woods, I believe. It's about the corrupt police in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I started reading that when I first got it, and then I left it at my office and then picked it back up. But it's really, really interesting. It's one of those books where you read it and it sounds like they wrote it with the intention of it being a movie. Okay. Which I like, because that's just, so I think that's how some people's brains process things. That's the thing that I've really been enjoying.
That's cool. Now I'm trying to I'm blanking on this book that I read last week that, it's a book called Calvin. I can recommend this. So it's a YA book, and it's a really interesting premise. It's about a 17-year-old kid named Calvin who was born on the day that the last Calvin and Hobbes book, comic strip, came out. And growing up, this kid in the book had a stuffed tiger that his grandpa named Hobbes. And then the whole book is like this kid has a kind of a mental breakdown where he sees Hobbes and is convinced that he has to go visit Bill Watterson and have him draw one more Calvin and Hobbes book or comic strip to make it okay, to make him okay.
Nice.
It's a really cool premise, and it's the same thing. Like, I read the book, and it feels like if it felt like a Netflix movie, and I mean that in a good way. Like, it just had that vibe to it, had that visual feel to it. So that's a cool book if you're looking for something else to read.
Did you ever watch that Bill Watterson Calvin and Hobbes doc that's on? I think it's on Amazon Prime.
I have not yet. It's on my list. I have not watched it yet.
It's not super good.
Okay.
It's not super good, but if you skip past like the first 30 minutes or something like that, then they start talking about Bill Watterson. I think the first half hour or something, it's like the kid who was making the doc talking about like his connection to it and why he loves it or whatever. I skip past that part now, and I just watch. There's like a very good middle section where they talk about Bill Watterson and his like reticence to participate in any sort of interviews, or he refused to license any of his stuff. It was like this whole big thing.
Right.
He turned down hundreds of millions of dollars to like keep this Calvin and Hobbes existing only as a comic strip. And there's a part in there that I really, really enjoy, where this one guy, this other famous comic strip person who did like a lot of licensing stuff, he's explaining the difference between if you do a lot of licensing, which brings you a lot of money, but it also brings you like the way he describes it, he says all of a sudden I have to make like 7 more phone calls a day, or I have to meet 7 more people who I otherwise would not have met. And he's talking about like how taxing that can be, and like how even if all that's required of him is to say like yes or no to a thing, he still has to do that act.
Sure.
Yeah. And so he was basically saying like he understands why Bill Watterson went the other way, and that to me is like really, really an interesting idea to touch on, like what we were talking about a minute ago. That's part of the reason I like the PDF so much, because it's just, or the self-published stuff so much, because it's just only the stuff you want to do, and there's like no when the short story came out, for example, it was like busy for a day or two because I was tweeting a bunch about it. But it wasn't anything like when the movie book came out, and I'm flying like across the country, hitting all of these book tour stops and doing tons of interviews, and I got to be like on TV and all this other stuff. Like it's a very stressful situation. But the other way, you don't have to do any of that. I just got to answer some tweets if I feel like it, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, I will have to watch at least half of that Bill Watterson documentary, at least the second half of it. And you have a new podcast out on The Ringer, The Connect, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, you want to tell us a little bit about it real quick?
The Connect is really a fun thing. Me and Jason Concepcion, who is an Emmy winner and the co-host of Binge Mode, which I think like 2 years in a row was voted like the best podcast in America by like Time magazine or something like that. I know they won it one year. I can't remember. I think the other year maybe they got second place or something. I don't know. He's fucking badass though. Just really great when you put a microphone in front of him. So me and him are doing this podcast together now called The Connect. And the way it works is each week we have like a different theme. And then within that theme, we both bring a movie that applies to the theme. Like the first episode, the theme was work friends,
right? And
that's all that we're told. And so he like picks a movie that has something to do with work friends in whatever way he wants it to. He picked Office Space. I picked a movie that has something to do with work friends. I went a little more sideways with it, and I picked Scarface, which has Tony and Manny as like working in the cocaine industry in Miami. And then we just like go through this set of categories where we talk about both of the movies and like make some jokes and do whatever. But it's like a really fun thing to do. It's really fun to think of the categories. What I really enjoy is like as soon as we announce what the category is, people send other suggestions in. Like the one that we're doing, the next episode, the theme is I thought this computer was my friend.
Okay.
Which is like it's like a jokey thing, like when the computers betray us or robots betray us or whatever. So Jason picked his movie Upgrade, which is about this guy who gets like a chip implanted in him that makes him super powered, but the chip takes over. And then I did Ex Machina,
nice.
Which is about the guy who creates like artificial intelligence, and then it like quite literally stabs him in the back. But as soon as we like announce what the theme is, everybody else, a bunch of people were like, "Oh, what about Wall-E? Because that fits," or "What about Her? Because that fits," or "What about
right.
you know?" I like that sort of active participation and stuff.
Is it weird that my brain went right to Short Circuit for that? It probably is weird, isn't it?
It is weird, but only because that robot was your friend. There was no like, betrayal in that. There's no betrayal in that movie. You need something like iRobot.
Oh, that's where you want to go.
The
Yeah.
Computer, the robot has to betray. In Short Circuit, Johnny Number 5 was just fucking. He just wanted to hang out and be buds.
Right, that's true. Johnny 5 is probably the best friend robot in all movies. That's another that's a whole other podcast though for another time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why the thing is fun. You're like, oh, we should do like friendly robots, and now you have a whole other list of movies.
All right, Shea, this has been awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate the time.
All right, homie, later.
Thanks for listening to The Other 51. Show notes for this and all of our episodes can be found at sportsmediaguide.com by clicking on the Other 51 tab. If you like the show, please consider giving it a rating and a review, either at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help people find the show. Our theme music is by Ellie Moritz.